Forward. Truth is singular and eternal, has always been and will always be. This document is drawn from decades of research and publicly available sources rather than person opinion. This book is about developing the ability to tell truth from falsehood and the recognition of causal factors, i.e., the causes for the effects that we experience in manifested reality. It is my conviction that to end suffering one must awaken to the objective truth of how things are beyond the mind control. The problem is not outside oneself, however. The tendency is to blame others, the occultists, the government, etc. Suffering is due to not knowing about and therefore living out of accordance with natural law, not standing up for what is right and moral, and not understanding one's sovereignty, and not respecting the sovereignty of others. As one suffers, all suffer. When you notice that to produce you need to get permission from those who do not produce anything, when you check that money flows to those who do not deal with goods, but with favors, when you realize that many become rich by the bribery and for influence more than by your work, and that the laws do not protect you against them, but on the contrary, they are the ones who are protected against you. When you discover that corruption is rewarded and honesty becomes a self-sacrifice, then you can assert, without fear of being wrong, that your society is doomed. Ayn Rand. Introduction. When everyone has the same misperception of reality, and believes something untrue, even something patently absurd, then it does not seem wrong. When a false or illogical idea is constantly repeated and reinforced by nearly everyone, it rarely occurs to anyone to question it. Most people become incapable of questioning their assumptions because, over time, they become solidified in their minds as a given fact. An assumption that does not need a rational basis, and does not need to be analyzed or reconsidered if everyone knows it to be true. Each person assumes the misperceptions of reality to be true because to imagine otherwise would be unthinkable. All the respectable, well-known, educated people on the radio and TV can believe and propagate untruths. What business does one average individual have in doubting something everyone else seems perfectly comfortable accepting as indisputable truth? There is a war on consciousness going on. If you can control a person's consciousness, you can convince them of all sorts of nonsense and ideologies that are not true. You can sever a person's connection to the Creator, which is the highest level. People cannot be controlled at the level of spirit, and any attempt at physical control has a time limit, as evident in history. The most effective control is at the level of the mind, to influence the behavior and decision-making process, such that people follow the agenda believing that it is their thoughts and agenda, instead of something that has been programmed. We have been manipulated, and the way to combat the war on consciousness is to understand how we have been mind-controlled. The way out of the mess we are in collectively is to work through it, to undo the mind control. There are lessons on the spiritual path. Freedom or progress will be made when the lessons have been learned. However, mind control prevents us from advancing on the spiritual path, being moral, and rising above servitude. Occulting, hiding, knowledge is not in accordance with natural law principles. The word occult comes from the Latin verb occulta, which means to hide, to conceal, to keep secret. Hiding knowledge is creating chaos in our society. No secret society or intelligence community should own knowledge, no one should. Those that withhold spiritual knowledge are engaged in sorcery regardless of their excuses. We will not see lasting positive change in society until occulted knowledge is freely available to the masses. Over millennia, rulers have perfected techniques of mind control discussed in this book and are employing these techniques with remarkable success. Nevertheless, our Creator has given us basic, inherent rights that were given to us even before we were born. One of these rights, under natural law, is free will. We have the right to make our own choices, and we do not have the right to take free will away from others. Only by understanding them, we can be protected from methods of mind control. Most people do not know about natural law, and therefore do not know of humanity's innate rights and sovereignty. Furthermore, most people do not realize that there are consequences for breaking natural law, and that these consequences have a delayed reaction. Most people have not understood self-ownership, sovereignty, let alone practice it in their own lives. Self-ownership seems like a crazy idea to most people because of heavy mind control. Mind control is done through rhetoric and the education system, and not through truth. The controllers will get us to point the finger outwards and blame others, but never to point the finger inwards and look at ourselves and admit that we have allowed our sovereignty to be taken. We are sovereign, we should rule ourselves, not the tyrants who use us for their selfish purpose. Therefore, we should examine ourselves and admit fault for our collective situation. This book is for those who have realized something is wrong in society and want answers, not for those who are content with the scraps thrown from the table by their masters.